Oh, hey everyone, my name is Terry. I'm an alcoholic. It's good to be here. And yet again, Paige is still over the pond right now. You guys are in luck. Coming back for a second visit in a row until further notice will be Howard E. So, Howard, can you please come in, introduce yourself?
Yep, my name is Howard Eber. I am a recovered addict and alcoholic, and glad to be part of AA's answer to Beavis and Butthead here tonight.
That's right. I'm happy you're here, my friend. I guess we'll
Got
do
to figure out which. Got to figure out which is which. That's the mystery, I
yeah.
guess.
We could switch. We could play roles.
Yeah.
Uh,
He said switch. He said switch.
Yeah. Well, I'll do, if I don't mind, I'll do the recap and then you could jump in. Because I gotta cut up Phoenix's food in a few minutes. So
Okay. So
we'll do a
start
recap.
recapping.
Yeah. So um, we started on chapter 6, Into Action, uh, and now we're fast paced now, baby. Right. There's 7 steps attached to this chapter. Steps 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And 11. So boom, 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 pew, 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 very quickly. We reviewed step 5. Clear indication what we were trying to do there was to get a new relationship and a new attitude with our creator, which was to, rip that mask off and get vulnerable with another human being. We talked about the qualifications of a sponsor, talked about how it's a life and death errand, what the other person is going through. Um, Talked about exactly what we're supposed to do to keep their confidence and also to understand what they're doing as well. A bunch of other stuff. A lot of stuff we talked about is a lot of, if we don't get vulnerable and we don't disclose everything with another person, there'll be a lot of fear and tension, which will lead to more drinking. So it is a life or death errand, meaning if we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking. Um, And we talked about the 5th step promises. Highly recommend if you're taking someone through the work, reading the 5th step promises prior to writing out your 4th step. There's some pretty powerful stuff in those promises that come into fruition. It's not a thinking exercise, and it's an experiential exercise. As you can see, the words that say feel in those promises. Our fears fall from us. We feel as though we're walking on the broad highway with the spirit of the universe, dot, dot, dot. And now we're going after our 5th step. What do we do? Is they're going to give us instructions, which Howard's going to go into it on what to do with our. Howard, I'll just pass it on to you. So we're on the bottom of page 75 of the big book, the last paragraph, and then we are going a transition into 6 and 7 right afterwards. So come in and have.
All right. Yep, as Terry said, we're on page 75, paragraph 3. It begins with returning home. Now, we had just completed our 5th step. The previous paragraph told us that we pocket our pride, illuminating every twist of character, every dark cranny of the past. We went into that withholding nothing. And we began to feel something. We began to notice that we were alone and at perfect peace and ease, as opposed to lonely when we're in our disease. And we're beginning to feel the nearness of our Creator. I've noticed that all through the book there are these like spiritual signposts. We searched diligently in step 2, and we became conscious of his presence in step 3. And here we are in step 5, and we're feeling the nearness of our Creator. And to let you in on the next few steps, in step 10, it says we begin to sense the flow of that spirit into us. And by step 11, we've made conscious contact. So that these are the things we're talking about and feeling the nearness of our Creator. And we begin to have a spiritual experience, and we're walking hand in hand in the spirit and on the broad highway with the spirit of the universe. Now, we've done a lot of work, probably deserve to take some rest. So Bill gives us a break. He says, returning home, we find a place where we can be quiet for an hour. So chill, get out the thing of popcorn, some iced tea, put your feet up, turn on Game of Thrones, and then look what he does. Typical Jewish mother. He gives you an assignment, carefully reviewing what we've done. Okay. So what have we done? He's telling us to take down the book. He said, we thank God from the bottom of our heart. We know him better, not fully, but better. Taking the book down from our shelf, we turn to the page which contains the 12 steps. And I shouldn't have to say this, but it's page 59 and 60. And carefully reading the first 5 proposals. So if we look at those first 5 proposals, what have we done? Well, by admitting our powerlessness in step 1, it opens the door for us in step to that power, opens the door to the power in step 2. By believing in that power or being willing to believe in that power in step 2 prepares us for the decision that we're going to have to make in step 3 to pursue that power. And making that decision in step 3 sends us on a quest to face and be rid of the things that are blocking us from that power. And in step 4, we do that by identifying those defects, those things that have stood in the way of that power getting out. You see, it's not about letting God in. It's about God is innate. On page 55, we were told that deep down in every one of us is the fundamental concept of God, that it's innate. It's which means it's born in us. So it's not a question of letting God out in. It's about letting God out. And we can't let God out because of the clutter that's accumulated over our soul because of a lifetime spent in our defects. So when we identify these things in step 4, we're prepared to admit them to God and to our sponsor in step 5. And what we realize in step 5 is that we are frightened, inconsiderate, irresponsible, dishonest, selfish, self-seeking, judgmental individual. And that's the clutter that's accumulated on our soul that's blocking God from getting out. It's not about letting God in. He's already in. He's got to be let out. And so what we've been doing here is in step 4, we got ready to admit them in step 5. And by recognizing the damage that those defective thoughts have had in our lives in step 5, we're ready to have God remove them in step 6. Now, how do I know the extent of the damage that these defects have caused me? And again, let's look at what the defects are. That last column in our inventory: frightened, irresponsible, inconsiderate, dishonest, selfish, self-seeking, judgmental. And when I made decisions with that as a motivating factor, and I did because I have a defective thinking process, when I made a decision based on any one of those defects, what happens? I am in conflict spiritually, mentally, and physically. And then when I collide with the forces with which I'm in conflict, and I inevitably will, because the problem with self will is everyone's got it. And if I try and force my will on you or a situation around us, there's going to be a reaction. You're going to push back. You're going to want to, you're not reading my book, you're using your own book. And your book says, get rid of Howard. He's stepping on your toes. So you push off, you retaliate. Well, what happens when you retaliate? Now it's my turn. And that's when I get angry. And that's when I get fearful. And that's when I act in a dangerous manner. In other words, I get resentful. And when I'm resentful, I drink and I drug. So the price of acting on those defective thoughts is drinking and drugging. If I want to eliminate the drinking and drugging from my life, that's the action. I have to eliminate the thinking that generated the chain of events that led to that action, because all action is born in thought. I can't reach over and pick up this, whatever the hell this thing is on my desk. I can't even pick it up without my brain telling my arm to tell my hand to pick it up. This action starts up here with a thought. So if my actions are lousy, My thoughts are lousy. So I have to change those thoughts, which is why we've gone through this process. And having said all of that, now I understand the damage that those defective thoughts have done and have had in my life. They have led to my drinking and drugging. And now, if I want to change that, we have to change those things we've already identified, which prepares us to have God remove them in step 6. So, continuing with that paragraph, we ask if we've omitted anything. And I think the rest of this paragraph, these are all prayers, promises. We, in our workshop, we highlight them in pink, but we ask if we've omitted anything. For we're building an arch through which we shall walk a free man at last. Remember the spiritual archway we've been building all through this process. Now we're walking through it. Is our work solid so far? Are the stones properly in place? Have we skimped on the cement put into the foundation? Have we tried to make mortar without sand? In other words, have I been thorough and honest? Or have I said just enough to satisfy my sponsor? Have I been thorough and honest, which means did I deliberately leave anything out? I could lie by not mentioning something. And since you don't know enough to ask, you won't ask, and it never sees the light of day. And I wind up relapsing as a result of it. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, it's exactly the way it happens. So we're asking ourselves, have I just told enough to check off that box and got my sponsor to say, okay, great, now you're on step 7, and now you're on this one. So have we skimped on the cement? Have we tried to make mortar without sand? If we can answer to our satisfaction and answer those questions, we then, and only then, look at step 6. We've emphasized willingness as being indispensable. Indispensable, incidentally, is a $50 version of must. A lot of musts in this book, and they appear in different ways. That's one of them. So here's a must. Willingness is a must. Are we now ready to let God remove from us all of the things which we have admitted are objectionable? And I've personalized that. My book says, I am now ready to let God remove from me all the things which I admitted are objectionable. Can he take them all? Everyone? Not 10%, not 90%, not 99.999%. That one little thing that I'm sure most of the people right now is passing right through your head, that one little thing, that's what'll trip me up. So if I admitted these things which are objectionable, can he now take them all, every one? If we still cling to something we won't let go of, good luck. That's really what he should say there, right? Good luck. We ask God to help us be willing, and that's all there is of step 6. I was at a meeting the other day, and a guy was talking about working step 6, and I'm glad everybody here is seated because you're about to get knocked over. He said he'd been working on step 6 for 2 years. 2 years. Step 6 is a dirty diaper, right? When you get it dirty, first it's squishy and it's warm and it's nice and it's comfortable, but then it gets cold and it starts to stink and you got to get that thing off. And this guy is sitting in that diaper for 2 years. I don't know. Is it me or is it him? Tara?
No, that's probably the best metaphor I've heard for step 6 in a long time. That's why we talk in metaphors. It's really it's difficult to describe the world of the spirit, as you can see, that says the word now in that step as well. Are we now ready to let God remove all the things which we admitted are objectionable? Now is a time frame. That's something I can't really describe. That's something I can more experience. And what I've looked at when I looked at my initial 4-step and the many few that I've written since, from believer that have, like it says in the big book, A business which takes no regular inventory usually goes broke, meaning I need to constantly review and become self or do more self-examination, become more self-aware as I trudge this way of life. And there's a bunch of things that I found out through my inventory process that were objectionable. Objectionable just means unwanted. Um, and was I now ready to let them go? I just kind of said yes in the beginning. Now it became a little bit more like that dirty diaper. I had to live with what it felt like with these defects of character. I was given a spiritual exercise. This was given to me by Mark Houston Sponsee, and I'll pass it on to you. The ones that you've seen patterns with, the ones that you've seen that are objectionable, that are unwanted, um, that you're not really ready to let it go, not completely yet. We put numbers aside to them to see how much the pain level was associated with letting go of these defects of character. Um, because yeah, I see them, but yeah, they're not kicking my tail that bad, right? So that was one exercise. This is an exercise that really it showed me what it felt like to be walking around with a dirty ass diaper. Right? You know, like this is what it felt. This is what the exercise was, and whatever you find that's objectionable in step 6 or with your inventory, ask God to show you what it looks like to live with that defect of character. Keyword is to show, and He'll show you. He'll show you the pain that's associated with holding on to it as well. And that's and yeah, I talked about it earlier that the word let is an actionable verb. You know, like there's participation from me in order for me to have God remove this. It's like I'm about to get operated on, and I'm scratching and crawling not to get on that operating table because I'm still fighting, right? And I can't be put into that state of being without some type of pain in order for me to let go absolutely, and then let God operate me or let the doctor operate me, and not literally say, "Hey, no, you can't use that scalpel. I don't like that." I gotta let him do his job. All right, that's this transition of step 6 into 7. But there's some things I want to talk about. This some things I wrote down from a previous workshop that I did with one of my sponsors, and we looked at aspects of character. Has anyone heard of that before? It's a dirty cousin of defective character. It's a belief system. That's what they are. And most of these belief systems or old ideas, I usually find them out in between the 3rd column into the 4th column. Here are some that I will share with you. Is people have to act a certain way for me to be all right. Anyone feel that? Done that before? Thought that way before? Yeah. People need to act in a certain way in order for me to be okay. So that's me walking around with a belief system. Who said I need money to live? That's another aspect of character, belief system. Another thing that I've walked around with most of my life. And if someone messes with my money, what happens? I'm hurt, threatened, and interfered with. I'm pissy, I'm disturbed. Here's another one. Men are better than women. Women are better than men. I have to be on top to have control. It's another one as well. These are all things that are associated with belief systems and old ideas. And these are things that you've probably taken on from mommy and daddy. I mean, look at Bill's conception. He had issues with God because, I mean, Howard, correct me if I'm wrong, but he lived with his grandpappy, right? And his grandpappy, I think he believed in some type of spirit in the universe, but didn't like the religious people. And Bill took that on. Bill took that
Spiritual people, spiritual.
spiritual, religious people. Yeah. Bill took that belief system from grandpappy, right? Uh, I took the belief system I need money in order to be okay, or I need a desk job in order to be okay from my mom, my dad. Shit, until 6 months before my dad passed away, uh, that was he kept asking me, "What are you doing about your work? What are you doing about your job? What are you doing about this?" Right? And I kept telling him, "I can't sit at a desk." Like I go crazy sitting at a desk. I just need to be out there. That's how I operate. um, Here's some things with defects of character. Lust gets dressed up as liking. Greed gets dressed up as ambition. Control gets dressed up as concern. Lust could be dressed up with love. Dishonesty dressed up as rationalization. So these are some things that I wanted to point out to you guys. Um, I think that I think the sixth step is probably something that it really just separates the men from the boys and the women for the girls. These are the things that this is emotional sobriety. This is, do I really want to grow up? I think that's the key thing that I take out from step six. Am I willing to grow in the image and likeness of my creator? And what's holding me back is the things that are objectionable. Sloth was objectionable. Sloth is one of the seven deadly sins, and you could put that under the umbrella of selfishness, right? I knew sloth was objectionable. You guys, I don't know if you guys have heard the story with my dad. I was supposed to see my dad, and I was starting a new job, and that day was coming up, but I was really tired, and I wanted to take a nap. And I'm coming up with ways on how to lie to my dad about how not to meet up with him. Yeah, and I got 6 years sober at this time. Mr. Spiritual Guy, being, no. I'm about to lie to my dad. He calls me up before I call him and says, "Hey, um, yeah, what do you say? We're painting the house. Sorry, 'cause that was the first week. Yeah, we're painting the house. Terry, can we see each other next week? No problem, no problem. But in the back of my head, I'm like, yes, I get to take naps. Who likes nap time? Yeah, I loved it in the first year. It just continued on. And it was objectionable. I've seen it on my inventory many times, many times. I knew it was unwanted. I knew it was objectionable. I knew it was blocking me off from God. I knew it was putting a distance between me and you and a distance between me and God. I saw it. I was aware of it, but I wasn't willing to let it go. Like that dirty ass diaper that Howard's talking about. And then the following week happens, right? And I'm about to see my dad, blah, blah, blah. And then you know what happened? I had a coworker die at work, literally died at work. He was one of us, by the way. And I thought about approaching him, but obviously the timing was off because he was drunk as a skunk when I approached him. But I don't know. I don't shortchange the power of God anymore. I'm going to approach anyone if I feel that intuition to go to approach them. But long story short, I see a dead body. I had a horrific experience at work, but I got to see my dad this weekend. Now I'm coming up with ways. I have a good excuse to get out of this. Right? And I'm about to pitch this to my dad. And then my dad, he actually calls me up and says, "Hey, we're both, me and his wife are sick." And I'm like, "Oh, it's okay. We'll see each other next week." He's like, "Oh, no, how about I come to you?" And I'm like, "No, no, don't worry about it. We'll see each other next week." Why? Because I want to take my nap time. I want to sleep all day. The baby's going to babysitting now. I'm going to chill all freaking day. Right? And the next day he died. My dad died. He passed away. He had a heart attack and had a stroke. And see, I knew it was objectionable, sloth. I knew it was blocking me off. I didn't enjoy those final weeks with my dad. But God showed me how objectionable it was. And I was willing to let it go. That state of being, like, dude, I got down on my knees. I'm like, "God, here's sloth, take it." And God had the audacity not to take it away. And I'm like, "That son of a bitch, God, what's up, man? I thought you were all powerful. I thought you were the man. I thought you had a 24/7 hotline I could call anytime and you could take this away." And he didn't take it away. I couldn't figure it out. A couple of days go by. I'm going through the grief stages, going through the stages. I saw my dad on the floor when when I went to him, went to the funeral home. I was devastated. I was beating myself up, chewing myself up. And then, yeah, I did it. I haven't done this in a long time. I'm really weird when it comes to two-way prayer. I do it when it works for me, when I need it to work for me. I guess, I don't know. I did it. I did it two-way prayer because I didn't know what else to do. And thank you for the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous because you guys carried me through that. I just called people nonstop, but I still felt that guilt inside because of what I was doing, right? I wanted to take a nap. I didn't want to see my dad, and he passed away. And two-way prayer, I did two-way prayer, and it came to me that Why don't you write a letter? You know, part of our eighth step, it says some people cannot be seen. It's one of the eight types of amends that should cover all amends, and that's the last one. So I wrote my dad a letter to this, and I read it out loud to this picture right here. I'll show it to you guys. There he is, a little smirk on his face. I read it out loud. I gave you guys the super quick story of what happened, but because I don't want to spend too much time, I'd rather listen to Howard than listen to my own voice. But um, I read that story out there and I was crying, like just sobbing. It wasn't tears of grief or guilt or shame. It was tears of love and just pure love. And I asked my dad, how can I make this right? And he said, be you. And I'm like, be you? What the hell does that mean? Be you. What's that witchcraft shit? You know? And so part of our sane and sound ideal, which is we take this from our inventory. Yet again, don't burn your four step for the love of God. Make a right, coward, just make a
Make
copy
a
of it.
copy,
Yeah,
please.
make
Make a
a
copy.
copy, but make a copy before you burn it, right? I get the significance of it, but you're going to need it for the a few other steps that are associated, right?
All of us.
Right? And part of the same and sound ideal, I asked God to help me be me. And every single day I asked him to do that, and all of a sudden 2 weeks went by, and I look back and I'm like, I haven't taken a nap, Howard. I haven't been lazy. I haven't been slothful. I've been attentive. You know, I did the work, and God worked on me. That's what it. See, when we go into the seventh step, it's the beauty of step seven is the miracle of step seven is you start to see it with what your feet are doing in steps 8 and 9. That's been my experience, and I think I went a little too far over there. But if there is a prayer in here, it's a sneaky little prayer. I recommend that you use this prayer. If you're not willing to let go of this defective character, pray for the willingness. And I recommend to say that prayer in the morning, at night, and all throughout the day. So 3 times a day. That means all the time. I can't teach willingness to anyone. That's a state of being. I call it grace. Something will happen to you where you become willing. Happened to me when God showed me that when sloth was objectionable. I don't take that event with my dad as something that beat me up and put that guilt on me to the point where I almost drank again. It taught me something. It taught me I need to grow up, straight up. And I need God's help to do that. So back to you, Howard. Pew, pew, pew.
Okay. So the first paragraph is step 6, right? Willingness is indispensable. And incidentally, I don't know if you ever thought about this. It says, we have emphasized willingness as being indispensable, right? And then in the very next sentence, it says, and we're now ready. First, we're talking about willingness. Now we're talking about ready. Well, what's the difference? Well, the best way I can explain this is I may be ready, willing to retire, and I was a long time ago. But was I ready? No, I wasn't ready. Financially, I was not ready. So there's a difference between willing and ready. It's one thing to be willing, and it's another thing to be ready. And sometimes we confuse the two and get all jammed up. If I'd have retired when I just thought I was, when I just thought I was willing to do it, I'd have gotten in a lot of trouble financially. So, are we now ready to let God have all these things taken from us? And so on. That's all of step 6. First paragraph, step 6, right? Now we go into the next paragraph. And when ready, we say something like this. So he's now going into step 7, right? So the assumption is step 6 was the first paragraph was step 6, and then we went straight into step 7. But where did step 7 begin? It did not begin at the second paragraph on page 76. Step 7 began many pages back on page 63 is where step 7 began. In the middle of page 63, it says, They call it the third step, incidentally. God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage, the slavery of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, thy way of life. May I do thy will always. Please note, there is no amen at the end of that sentence, because amen indicates a change of direction. Amen means so be it. Now we're going on to something else. We've finished one thing, we're moving on to the other. So in step 3 that we just read here, we're asking God to do something. And then between 63 and 76, things start happening. Things start happening in there, right? 4, 5, 6, now into 7. Now let's see what he says about step 7. I think step 7 is probably the most misunderstood step that we have. And I think, in all fairness, it's probably because of its brevity and its simplicity. As recently as I think last night, I heard somebody say step 7 is just a prayer. What? No, step 7 is far from, quote, just a prayer. So let's see that. Let's keep that in mind, that people think, I thought for a long time, step 7's a prayer. That's it. But step 7 is not a microwave. I don't pop in a prayer and pop out perfection. It doesn't work like that. I have work to do, and we don't see it unless we carefully read this step. So let me do that. Let me try and do that. My Creator, I am now willing, again, remember, willing and ready. I'm now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. Remember, in the third step prayer, we ask God to take all of those things. I now pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character, which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and to my fellows. It doesn't say, remove from me every single defect of character which makes me unhappy. That's not what it says. It doesn't promise us to remove those things that make us unhappy. It promises us to remove the things, excuse me, throw a shot, which stand in the way of my being useful. That's my job, is to be useful to God and the people about us. Going way back when we were first informed that we have a new employer, remember? We have a new employer. And we were right away given our job description. What was that? Stay close to him and to do his bidding. Let me repeat that. To do his bidding. And I'm going to tell you why I said to repeat it. Watch this. Grant me, which stands in the way of my usefulness to my fellow. Grant me strength as I go from here to do your bidding. Remember, our job is to stay close to him and to do his bidding. He's not my errand boy. I'm his errand boy. I'm here to do the things he wants me to do. So here we're asking God to give us strength as we go from here to do that work. Now, the first 3 words of that sentence give away the fact that it's not just a prayer. Grant me strength sounds like a prayer. It's also a statement that I am engaged in an activity. I am doing something, right? I'm making a pie, okay? And I need some help to do that. So I asked Kathy to help me do that. Grant me the strength as I go from here to do your bidding. I'm doing something. I'm on my way to do your bidding, God, but I need some help. You got a minute? You got a second to give me a hand here? I'll hold it right here and you just bang into it. God will do for me what I can't do for myself, but he will not do what I can do for myself. And what I can do for myself in the 7th step is having already identified all of my defects of character. Remember the 7, frightened, irresponsible, inconsiderate, dishonest, selfish, self-seeking, judgmental, irresponsible. Uh, well, now I have a job to find the opposite of each of those. That's where my job in the 7th step begins. Once I know the defect, I now have to figure out what the asset is because I don't want to sit in that dirty diaper anymore. So I have to figure out what is the opposite of each of those defects. And that equips me to go out and to do God's bidding, to do the work that he wants me to do. And then what happens? Amen. Amen means so be it. We've been working in this way. We've been working on ourselves. We're working on this one thing. Now we're starting to go in another direction. 4, 5, 6, 7. Me, my defects, my shortcomings, etc. Now we're turning to you. We're turning to the world and everything in it. We're going from that personal, that mental dimension. The 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th gets us right mentally. 1, 2, and 3 gets us right spiritually. And now we're about to turn a corner to begin to get right with the world and everything in it, which is the physical dimension. So the word amen is very significant here. And in case we missed the point that we've been working on this step for 13 pages, he then says, we have then completed step 7, right? You've been on it for 13 pages. Well, you're done with it now. Terry?
Thanks, Howard. Yeah, I mean, I was taught steps 3 through 7 are a package deal with a 1 hour break, right? 1 hour meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yet again, you see the word now is in this prayer as well. And I was taught when you take a drink, you become the drink, right? It takes you. When you do a sincere prayer, you become the prayer. You become a demonstration of this prayer. This step, yes, there's actions, 13 pages that are associated with it. 6 and 7, yeah, they're just 2 paragraphs, but they are the program of recovery. They are associated with every single step, intertwined with every single one of them. Remove the good and the bad, takes the judgment out of me, takes the judgment out of me. I don't know what's good for me. Well, it's good for me could be bad. What's bad could be good. I don't know. Like it's just God will remove it, won't remove it. Like I told you with sloth, he didn't do it with that, and immediately it did it later when I actually did some participation. That's why our third step says to build with me and do with me. Keywords with means there's participation for me. I'm now in unionship with this power. And now what am I going to go do is do his bidding, is put some legs on it, which is in the next paragraph. So it says now, there's that word now again. It's a funky word. We need more action. Damn it, Howard. There's more to this stuff. Without which we find that faith without works is dead. Well, I guess the design of the first 7 steps is to build us with faith, right? Faith means the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things can't seen. I like to say hope with a track record. I also say, but I need both of them. I need faith and I also need work at the same time. Like I have a friend, Kurt Z in California. He says works without faith is self-propulsion. And that makes sense to me too. I've tried to control and manage the steps in order to feel better. It doesn't work. All right. But yeah, I can have all the faith I want, but it doesn't mean anything unless I put legs on my steps. And then I go out and I start knocking on some doors. And I start looking people eyeball to eyeball. And I get vulnerable and I talk about where I was wrong, where I made mistakes, and how I want to repair. Keyword is repair the damage done in the past. So let's look at steps 8 and 9. We have a list of all, that's my favorite word in the big book, the word all persons we have harmed and to whom we're willing to make amends. Really? How? We made it when we took inventory. What? Fucking Bill W. That felt like an axe being thrown through my heart when I first read that. I was like, oh shit, I gotta make amends to people I resent. There's another way, well, not just another way, but you take your four step, and yes, it is your amends list, resentments and the harms done, especially with the person who's associated with the fourth question out of the nine questions on page 69, whom was attached to this person who we hurt. Not only did I hurt my wife, but I also harmed her mother. I also harmed her brother-in-law, also harmed her sister-in-law. It's a blast radius with us. It's a ripple effect. Not only do we just harm one person, we harm multiple people, and we find that out when we write inventory. So yet again, don't burn that four step. Make a copy, please. This is something I was taught. I mean, my friend Roy K, we did a study together for a while, and I'm pretty sure he stole this from you, but and then for some reason I just started making an eight step out of this, and it's been really beneficial to me, and I'll pass this along to you guys. So he talked about there's eight types of amends that cover all amends. So I'll go through them all each page, and I'll come back to this paragraph. And all those eight types of amends, you meditate, you pray on it, and you come up with a very, very large list, not including your four step, but also you add that later on. And you'll find out you have hundreds of the names that you didn't even think about when you first initially wrote. So the first one, I'll just do a little skipping and then go back, is that's the last paragraph on this page. It says, as we look over the list of business acquaintances and friends, that's number one. So I write a list. I'll write all the people I've ever worked with and all the people that I was friends with, who are, I believe, where I caused harm to me and God, or who I was friends with that I caused any type of harm to. And all of a sudden, I have a very large list with that. Number two is on page 77. It's the second paragraph. It is one, two, three, four, five lines down. It says the man we hated. That's number two. So you could take that from your resentment list. So meditate and pray on that one. And you'll find out more people who you did not like at work, who were not initially on your four step. And all of a sudden you'll have a much larger list. Number three is on page 78. It is the second paragraph. It says most, I don't know why it says the word most, but yep, most alcoholics owe money. So then you would pray and meditate on any types of situation where you owe money. And I did not write down a lot of financial stuff when I was writing inventory, but I did when I did this exercise. Number four is the last paragraph. It says, perhaps we've committed a criminal offense. So people where we've committed crimes. I love that question where people say, no, I've never committed a crime. And then I ask them, have you ever ran a red light before? And they said, yes. And I'm like, congratulations, you committed a crime. So why don't you pray and meditate on any crimes you've committed and got away with, by the way? And it'll give us instructions on how to handle those when we get to that page. Number five is on, where's number five at? It
80,
is,
page 80, paragraph 5.
which one? Where was I?
80, paragraph 5.
80, paragraph five.
Domestic
Oh,
troubles.
domestic troubles. Yeah, so he did steal this from you. Okay. So number domestic troubles, cheating. Anywhere where you've been cheating or you have had domestic issues or if you had
Infidelity.
affair,
Infidelity.
infidelity. Yeah, I like what Bill says in his story. There was no real infidelity. I don't know what he meant by that. Sounds like he was too drunk to remember if he did cheat on Lois. But in a nutshell, anything, ask God, hey, where was there an infidelity, where there was cheating, that might have caused harm, and who should I write down? And then I'll tell you, man, God will, God will have you writing a pretty big list. Happened to me where I had about maybe 80 amends, and I made every single one of them. I made every approach. There's some that are still working on financially, probably for the next 43 years. I got 43 years left for one amend. That's the longest I have left. Number six is, where was number six? Number six.
82-2. Wife or
82.
parents?
Wife or parents? Yeah, much to do at home, right?
Yep.
So yeah, so there's plenty we should do at home. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed the other one.
Wife or
Uh,
parents, 82 too.
number six is different. Where was it? Whereas other people are involved. That's number five. Number six is cheating, I think. Where other people involved? Where I say I rob a bank with Howard, where I want to go make amends to that bank, but I can implicate someone else. I think that's on page 79. Yes, 79. That's number five. The next one is cheating is six. So where other people are involved, that's 79, second paragraph. Yeah, so I want to go make this amend to a bank. I had an experience where I had to make amends to an insurance company because I stole 50K from them by faking an injury, and someone else who well, he was there, he was part of it, and I wanted to make amend to that insurance company, but I could have implicated him. What do I do now? Right? So give us instructions on that. We talked about cheating. Number seven is what we should do at home. This is a family, which I believe is probably the most difficult to mend because it talks about where a tornado roaring through the lives of other people and who's closest to the tornado. Our family. Pretty simple. They want to see it to believe it. Our words don't mean much to them. They want to see if our behaviors change. And this is where you actually give time, and they'll give us instructions on how to do that. And on the eighth one, which I was just talking about with my dad, is on page 83. It's the second to last paragraph. It was one, two, three, four, damn, four lines down. It says some people cannot be seen. So those are people who pass away. Those are people who I can't find, even though I want to find them. They're pretty fun, these ones. They usually pop up. They're called pop-up amends for me, where you just randomly cross paths with these people. But there you go. You have 8 types of amends that should cover every single one of amend. And I recommend that you make a list and get quiet and ask God to show you whoever you worked with, whoever is your friend that you harmed, anyone you've hated, anyone where you owe money, where you've committed crimes, which is a big one, where other people are involved, any cheating, and your family, and also where you can't find people, where some people cannot find, and you'll find out you'll have a very, very large list. And my experience with the 8 step, it shrinks and it grows and it shrinks and it grows and it shrinks and it grows. It is a lifelong process. It's an underrated step. It's one of the most underrated steps in the big book. I probably the most spiritual thing I ever done, which I could go into later on, but I want to go back to 76 and stop talking because I feel like I'm talking too long. Okay, so back to 76. We subjected ourselves to a drastic self-appraisal. Now here we go. Yeah, the instructions, you'll notice this book is more descriptive than instructive. Here's a clear-cut instruction. Now we go out to our fellows, and here's the intent to step eight and nine, to repair the damage done in the past, to make right, I'm sorry, make the wrong right, right? We attempt to sweep away the debris we've accumulated out of our effort to live on self-will and run the show ourselves. Here we go. Here is our sneaky 8 step prayer. If we haven't the will to do this, we ask God until it comes. Yet again, if you're looking at amend, I know Howard will go more into the yes, no's, and maybes. I've had experience with step 8 with not willing to make amends to certain people or certain financial situations. And my sponsor at that time told me to say the 8 step prayer. And that, for some odd reason, it worked one day. It will come to you as you come along. Yet again, it's a state of being. All right, remember, I don't remember this, Howard. It was agreed. Do you remember this when you first got sober? Remember, it was agreed at the beginning, and these are squiggly lines for some reason. We would go to any links for victory over alcohol. Anyone remember that? Who said they'll die sober? I did. Who
See,
said that they're willing to do whatever? You told me to roll around like a puppy. I'll freaking do it. Who said they're willing to do whatever, any go to any lengths, even though you don't agree with it? Anyone say that? That's a new question I've been asking people. Are you willing to go to any lengths even though you don't agree with it? Yeah, we have amnesia for some odd reason. I balked on this step and I almost drank, right? Because that resurrection, the recuperative powers of the ego comes back very fast. That spiritual experience for me from the fifth step had an expiration date and it expired. I almost drank because I didn't make my amends. Right? Not making amends is like driving on a flat tire and wishing and hoping that flat tire goes away. Right? One day it's going to be so bad they'll flip your car. That's what almost happened to me. And all right, back to you, Howard. I'm sorry for talking so damn long.
No, that's that's okay. You covered a hell of a lot of ground. If I may, let me go back a little bit to the beginning where we're introduced to steps 8 and 9. Um, has it ever occurred to anyone to ask why are those two steps put together? It's the only steps that are together. Every other step is this is the first step, this is two, this is three, this is four. This is the only step. These are the only steps that are put together. Never wonder why? Well, Bill answers it here, but very simply, since we don't have all the time in the world, step 8 is about preparation. Step 8 is a definite step. When you go to meetings and the topic is step 8 and people start talking about amends, it drives me crazy because step 8 is not about amends. Step 8 is about preparation to make amends. It's about spiritual preparation, getting right with God, getting the direction and the support that you need, and logistical preparation. In other words, who, what, when, where, how, and why of making the amends. Step 8 prepares me for step 9. The same way step 4 prepares me for step 5, or step 3 prepares me for step 4, and so on. Step 8 is a definite step. Don't cheat it by lumping it together with amends. It is a beautiful step, it is a serious step, and it takes a lot of work. And what is that work? Again, who, what, when, where, why, and how. So I sit down with my sponsor. Let me repeat that. I sit down with my sponsor and we make index cards. And we take the names off of our inventory that we've caused harm to. And on every index card, all we do is put a name in the left-hand corner and then go on to the next card. Everybody. We're not saying we're going to make amends to these people. The step doesn't say that. The step says to make a list of all people we have harmed and became ready to make amends to them all. The word all appears twice. It's a short sentence, and the word all is there twice. I guess it's important. So I put them all down. Every card gets a name. And then I wind up with this stack of cards. Okay. And then what do? Those are the who's, right? Those are the who that I got to make amends to. Now, what am I gonna say to these people? So we put bullet points on each of the cards, a couple of ideas in case you go blank when you're sitting there in front of the guy or gal. Just look down for the bullet points, just to remind you. Okay. And then we get down to the whens. When are we going to make amends to these people? Now, the way that I was taught, the Joe and Charlie method, was a 3 list method: the nows, the laters. I'm sorry, 4: the now, the laters, the maybes, the nevers. Right now, that's easy. Family members, low hanging fruit, so on. Laters, just we'll get to them. People you work with, and so on. There's no reason to put it off, but you have to do the family first. Then there are the maybes. Ah, not sure about those people. And then there are those sons of bitches that I will never, ever, ever say another word to. Those are the nevers. Okay, so I put these in 4 piles: now, later, maybe, never. And watch what starts to happen. I start to make amends to the nows, and I start to realize the power of making those amends. I start to feel what it take, what it does, what it creates when you make those amends. and how great that is. And I want to now go on to those laters. No reason not to. Let's get going with them laters. And you know what? There's no more maybes anymore. I am ready to go to those maybes and get them done. And you know what then happens? And I bet everyone here a fresh, crisp $20 bill. You go through the first three lists, you will be dying to get to that last list of the people that you said you'd never talk to. That's why the steps are put together. Because as you make the amends, step 9, that prepares you to make other amends, step 8. That's why they're put together. Step 8 and step 9 work together. As I'm making amends, I'm becoming willing to make other amends. Easy peasy. And as Terry mentioned, these categories. Incidentally, the word is amends, AMENDS. For many years, I had that wrong. If you listen to my older tapes on YouTube and on aaspeaker.com, I talk about amend, and I say amend means to change. I was wrong. I gave a lot of misinformation because that's not the word. The word is amends with an ends, with an S. It's a different word than amend. Amend doesn't appear anywhere in the big book. That word does not appear anywhere. Amends, AMENDS, excuse me, means compensation for loss. It means reparation. And Bill gives a lot of explanations in this chapter. He says it's to repair the damage done in the past, sweep away the debris, set right the wrong, straighten out the past, sweep off the side. The point being, it's not change, it's about correction, it's about restitution. So it's important that we use the right word. And again, for me, it's very important because I made that mistake, and I'll probably spend the rest of my life trying to correct that from anybody who would listen to that. But there's all of these categories that Terry mentioned, but there's also something else, and we're running out of time, so I don't think I'm going to be able to get into this. But we have 12 steps, we have 12 traditions, we have 12 concepts, and in working with others, we have the 12 inconveniences. You may not know about them, but there are 12 inconveniences there. But we also have 12 guiding principles. There are 12 guiding principles of making amends that are contained in this chapter. We're not going to have time to go through them all now. I don't think we got about 3 or 4 minutes. So I think you're probably going to have to come back next week to find out what the 12 guiding principles are. Ter?
Yeah, I don't even know those, so I'm looking forward to coming back next week. Thanks, Howard. Couple things I wanted to mention. I've done the index cards. Um, it's probably one of the most powerful things I've ever done. You'll start noticing that these inanimate objects start talking to you, you know, and I would recommend that you carry around these index cards with you wherever you go and whenever. And this is how I intuitively made amends, using steps 10 and 11 to drive them as well. Because I need an acquisition of power when I do these amends. Because if I'm in the fear of making the amend, I could stay in that fear, and all of a sudden I'm not discussing it, or I'm not turning my thoughts to someone else to help or whatever. Love and tolerance ain't my code anymore, and all of a sudden I'm balking on these amends for reasons because I'm not practicing 10 or 11. Also, they're giving us a lot of tools prior to making these amends as well. um look at all the steps, all the prayers that I've recommended that you guys start practicing all the time. Even the first prayer on page 59, we ask for God's protection and care and complete abandon. Third step prayer, seventh step prayer. These are all given tools for us to make every single one of these amends. Fear prayer, what a wonderful prayer to be using when we make these amends or when we write our list. So don't forget about the stuff that we've done before, because this is going to help us with every single one of our amends. So I'll shut up now, and I'm looking forward to listening to Howard on those 12 guiding principles next week. And I will end the recording. And yet again, thank you, Howard. That was awesome. Let me just hit this. Where's the end recording
Yeah,
thing?
one more thing, if we could just slip it
Yeah.
in,
But
people always associate amends with apologies, and they're
yeah.
not the same thing. And I heard somebody recently say an apology is for the mind, an amends is for the heart.
Hmm. Yeah.
Something to be said for that.
Yeah.
See you
Well,
next
see,
week.
yeah, it's like I go to Howard and I break his window with a rock, and I want to make
That
amends
was
to him.
you?
That was me, man. And I go up to his door like, hey, I'm sorry for doing that. I'm like, hey, where's my money at? Right? So let me end the recording because we're going to be going into amends talks next week, which are fun. So let me stop.